Hello and welcome back, my friends. Today is a wonderful day. For today, I get to utilize this machine right here, this soil making machine that I put together last year, also known as a Compost Trommel compost sifter. I built this using a Harbor Freight cement mixer and a waste receptacle. If you want to learn more about it, check the link below. I went over the entire build and how you can put one of these together yourself, or just get a few ideas so you can build something comparable. But really, I just want to remind you guys that whenever you invest in your garden, whether it's to make a machine like this or to build a raised bed, it's an investment. Just like perennial plants, fruit and nut trees, I'm standing here next to this all-in-one almond loaded down with these little green almonds here, which are edible at this stage. They're quite delicious. You can either eat them just as they are or bite into them, dip them in a little bit of salt, but they're very delicious and watery. But this tree I plugged in the ground last year and we're already reaping a harvest. Imagine what we're going to be getting a few years from now. So this machine, for example, has already, in my calculation, paid for itself, as I made a whole lot of soil last year and I'm going to be making a whole lot more this year. So I'm actually already reaping that return. And if you did follow the build, or if you do follow up this video by watching how I put this together, I want to talk about a couple different upgrades, changes that I've made to this whole system. At the base of this basket here, there's a little gap where some of the wood chips and other compost material can fall through. So in the past, I had this coconut fiber that I cut out a circular piece and I kind of just compress fit that in there. And that held together for a while, but it started to fall apart. So the new solution is I took an old garbage can lid and cut that to fit and compress fit that in there. And that holds everything in really nice. And also this heavy duty steel waste receptacle that I use to sift all the compost. You can actually just use this grate right here without any type of a liner, but you're gonna have a much larger finished product. So what you can do is you can line the inside with different size hardware mesh. This comes in 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch. This is 1/4 inch. I like this a lot to make compost and soil for my garden. In the past, I had the insert secured to the receptacle with some garden twist wire, and that was coming loose as well. So I just replaced that with some zip ties. Other than that, everything is exactly the same as when I put it together. And I'm going to be topping off this raised bed with that fresh soil. And this was made using retaining wall concrete blocks. If you want to learn more about all the benefits of building your raised bed using concrete, also check the link below. And this here is the material that I'll be sifting today. This is primarily broken down wood chips. I had a big pile that I was letting break down for about a year or two, and I sifted that out, and all the larger chunks, I created a new pile and let it break down for another year. So this is probably going to reduce by at least half once again, and all the larger chunks I'll pile up and let it break down for another year. Or I can use it as mulch in my garden just to help to keep the moisture in the soil, create that skin layer. All right, so the wood chips are getting full here, but let me just show you this. That, my friends, is gourmet gardening soil. And any little small wood bits that remain in your compost, it's just fine. After it's been breaking down for a year or two, those pieces of wood are no longer going to be tying up any nitrogen. So don't worry about that. And quickly, my friends, if you're enjoying today's episode, you found it helpful or entertaining in any way, do us a big favor and smash that thumb button. It sure does help out the channel. And if you haven't already, consider subscribing to the channel. New uploads every week, sometimes every day, and we're always giving you updates on everything going on around here. If you tap that notification bell, that'll keep you in the loop. You'll never miss a future episode. And if you'd be so kind to shoot us a comment, we love to hear from you. We read them all, and we really appreciate it. Thank you, everyone. And of course, you could be doing this with all sorts of different composts that you make on site. Just your average compost heap. Mix in a little biochar in there. Put in some worm castings, what have you. Coffee grounds. And things like coffee grounds and, dare I say, urine can actually help to heat up your compost piles and break it down even quicker. Word of caution, however, with the urine is that a lot of folks take some sort of a pharmaceutical medication. A lot of these things don't break down. They don't biodegrade. And they come out through the stream of urine. So if you are taking any type of medication, I'd advise against using it in your garden, but do your own research and figure out what's right for you. And the way I work with this setup is once this bin becomes full with the larger chunks, and this is just premium mulch for your garden, or you can do what I did last year, just pile this back up, let it break down for another year. I'm going to actually spread some of this in my garden, but if I were to make another pile, I just scoop it out with a shovel and pile it right here where I'm working. Over here we got a bunch of chop and drop cardoon on top of cardboard. Now we can just add in a little bit of wood chips as well. This is a pathway in my garden, and by adding in all these organic materials here, what I'm doing is helping to suppress weeds, keep the soil cooler in the heat of the summer, and retain that moisture in the garden, all the while building up the soil. A good blend of different organic materials is best. You're going to have a diversity of microbes, and as this mixture of material begins to break down, we've got leaves and some straw, some wood chips, cardboard. It really creates a beautiful soil structure. So work with what you got. I'm a big fan of that. Not everyone can get wood chips. Not everyone can get one or more of these materials. So you work with what you got. Just about anyone can get their hands on some cardboard. So that's a good start. Lay cardboard down where you're trying to suppress weeds and clear an area for gardening. And then you can begin to chop and drop plants right on that cardboard, like this abundant edible crop, the cousin of the artichoke known as cardoon. And this is a cut and come again crop. As you pull the leaves off, it just pops out more and more of them. It's water rich in the stalk. The feathery leaves are nice and wide. They can cover a large area, help to protect the soil. And I just plop that down. The comfrey plant is another favorite of mine to grow in my food forest, not only because it has medicinal qualities, but for its chop and drop value. You can make comfrey tea with this. And once again, it's a cut and come again plant. The more you pull from it, the more it wants to grow. Here's an artichoke here next door. Add that to the mix. And look at that, we just covered that little patch of soil nicely, protecting it. And as long as we're on the topic, I should mention some of my other favorite chop and drop crops. Over time, I've come up with some favorites. One of them being the hollyhock flower. It has a deep taproot, abundant grower. It can perennialize in most gardens throughout the U.S. And you can take that whole plant, stalk, leaves, and all, and use that as a mulch. Also, lemongrass. You can grow either as an annual or a perennial. Easy to overwinter indoors, regardless where you're located. But the expired leafy material of the lemongrass, it lasts a long time. Creates a nice covering for the soil. But most plants are going to work, so work with what you got. Just be aware there are certain crops like tomatoes that can harbor bacteria and fungus issues that you don't want to proliferate in your soil. So anything like that, or any weedy material, something that has seed heads on it, be careful with those things. Everything else is pretty much fair play. You know, another great thing about doing this type of work in the garden, you can skip the gym. It's a good little workout. Gets you out in the fresh air and the sunshine. You get rewards for what you're doing. So another benefit to gardening, you get some good exercise, get a little sweat going, and it's sweat equity. It always gives you a return. All right, we cleared out enough room to keep going now. And by the way, you can pass this material through the machine more than one time. 2 times, you're going to get a little bit more soil out of it. I just pass it through 1 time usually. So not only are we able to top off this raised bed garden, as you'll notice if you're doing raised bed gardening, it's going to sink down at least a couple inches every year. As the material breaks down, becomes more fine, humus-like, those air gaps disappear. You're going to need to add in some fresh material. Right here we just saved about $10 worth of soil, and I'm going to put a few more of these in here. We're also conditioning the soil. We're introducing some fresh organic material with nutrients still in there that hasn't been taken up by any of the plants. So I'm going to continue on filling this raised bed. I'm getting it ready to plug in some transplant starts. I'll be sharing that with you as well. But for now, we're going to end this video. So I hope I was able to offer you some value for your time today. I sure do appreciate you being here. So with that, I want to wish you all a great rest of your day. Until next time, this is Dan from plantabundance.com. Take care. I'll be talking to you again soon.